I was sitting at a picnic table in Prospect Park in Brooklyn, the July sun beating down on my neck, watching Marcus's mother Patricia pour lemonade for his cousins while whispering behind her hand. I could see her lips moving, see the way their eyes darted toward me, see the judgment settling on their faces like dust. She'd been doing this for 3 years now, ever since Marcus and I got married, telling anyone who would listen that I was using her son, that I was a Nigerian woman who'd tricked her precious boy into marriage just so I could stay in America. But before I tell you what I revealed that day, before I tell you about the 3 secrets that came tumbling out like dominoes in a row, you need to understand how deep her lies had cut. You need to know why I'd stayed silent for so long while she poisoned every single person in Marcus's family against me. Because the truth was bigger than anything Patricia could have imagined. And once it came out, nothing would ever be the same. My name is Amara. I'm 31 years old. I came to America from Lagos, Nigeria, when I was 23 to study for my master's degree in public health at Columbia University. I got a full scholarship, one of only 3 given to students from my country that year. I'd worked my whole life for that opportunity. I'd been top of my class since primary school. I'd won awards. I'd volunteered. I'd done everything right. My parents were so proud the day I got on that plane. My mother cried. My father held my face in his hands and told me to make them proud, to show America what Nigerian women were capable of. I promised I would. I got to New York in August, the city hot and crowded and nothing like Lagos, but also somehow the same. People moving fast, everyone with somewhere to be, the energy of ambition hanging in the air thick enough to taste. I loved it immediately. I worked hard at Columbia. I studied until my eyes burned. I joined student organizations. I did research. I made friends from all over the world. I was building the life I'd dreamed about since I was a little girl watching American TV shows in my living room in Lagos. That's when I met Marcus. He was a resident at Mount Sinai Hospital, training to be a surgeon. We met at a coffee shop near campus where I was studying for finals. He asked if he could share my table because everywhere else was full. I said yes. We ended up talking for 3 hours. He was kind. He was smart. He was funny in a quiet way that made me want to keep talking to him. He asked about Nigeria like he really wanted to know, not like I was some exotic thing to collect stories about. He told me about growing up in Brooklyn, about his family, about why he wanted to be a surgeon. We exchanged numbers. He texted me the next day asking if I wanted to get dinner. I said yes. We dated for a year before I met his family. Marcus was nervous about it, which should have been my first warning sign. He kept saying his mother was traditional, that she had certain expectations, that I shouldn't take anything she said personally. I didn't understand what he meant until I walked into her house in Bedford-Stuyvesant. Patricia opened the door and looked me up and down like I was something she might scrape off her shoe. She was a short woman, round in the middle, with hair dyed too dark for her age and eyes that could cut through steel. She didn't smile. She didn't say welcome. She just stepped aside and let us in. The house was nice, well kept, full of family photos covering every wall. Marcus as a baby, Marcus graduating high school, Marcus in his white coat at medical school. Marcus, Marcus, Marcus. Her whole world was this man, her only child, her pride and joy. And I was the foreign woman trying to take him away. Dinner was tense. Patricia asked where I was from. I said Nigeria. She made a face like I'd said I was from Mars. She asked what my father did. I said he was an engineer. She raised her eyebrows like she didn't believe me. She asked about my family's money, about why I'd come to America, about my plans after school. Every question felt like an accusation. Marcus tried to redirect the conversation, but his mother wasn't having it. She focused on me like a laser, picking apart every answer I gave, looking for the trap she was sure I'd set for her son. By the end of the night, I felt exhausted. Not from the questions, but from the weight of her suspicion. From feeling like I had to prove I was worthy of breathing the same air as her precious son. In the car ride home, Marcus apologized. He said she'd warm up eventually, that she was just protective, that she'd been hurt before by women who'd used him for money or status. I wanted to believe him. But something in my gut told me Patricia wasn't going to warm up to anyone who took her son's attention away from her. I was right. We dated for another year. In that time, Patricia never once called me by my name. She called me that girl, or Marcus's friend, or sometimes just avoided using any name at all. When Marcus and I got engaged, she cried. Not happy tears. Angry, bitter tears. She begged him not to marry me. She said I was going to ruin his life. Marcus stood firm. He told her he loved me, that he was going to marry me whether she approved or not. We got married at City Hall on a Tuesday afternoon. Marcus's father came, a quiet man named Robert who seemed tired of his wife's drama. Marcus's best friend came. Two of my friends from Columbia came. Patricia refused to attend. She said she wouldn't watch her son make the biggest mistake of his life. That hurt more than I wanted to admit. I'd hoped that somehow she'd come around, that she'd see me getting married to her son and realize I genuinely loved him, that this was real. But she didn't come, and that told me everything I needed to know. After the wedding, things got worse. Patricia started a campaign. That's the only word for it. A deliberate, systematic campaign to turn everyone in Marcus's family against me. She told his aunts I was only marrying him for a green card. She told his cousins I came from poverty and was after his money. She told his grandmother I'd probably gotten pregnant on purpose to trap him. She told anyone who would listen that I was a scammer, a user, a woman with no morals who'd tricked her poor innocent son into throwing his life away. None of it was true. But that didn't matter. The lies spread like wildfire through his family. At every gathering, I could feel their judgment. The way they looked at me. The way they stopped talking when I walked into a room. The way they asked Marcus if he was okay with so much meaning behind those two words. Marcus defended me every time. He corrected the lies. He told them the truth about how we met, about my education, about my family back in Nigeria. But his mother's voice was louder. Her narrative was simpler. Foreign woman traps American man. It fit every stereotype they'd ever heard. It was easy to believe. I tried to defend myself at first. I showed them pictures of my family's home in Lagos, which was bigger than Patricia's house. I told them about my father's career, my mother's work as a professor. I explained that Nigeria wasn't some poor village they saw on charity commercials, that Lagos was a city of 20 million people with universities and businesses and culture. But they'd already made up their minds. Patricia's lies had gotten there first. So I stopped trying. I went to family gatherings and stayed quiet. I smiled and nodded and let them think whatever they wanted to think. Marcus said I shouldn't have to do that I should keep defending myself. But I was tired. So tired of fighting against a story that was easier for them to believe than the truth. What they didn't know was that I was hiding something. Something big. Something that would blow apart every lie Patricia had ever told about me. But I'd promised Marcus I wouldn't say anything. I'd promised I'd let it go. That we'd just live our lives and eventually people would see the truth. I kept that promise for 3 years. Through 3 years of dirty looks and whispered comments and obvious exclusion. Through Patricia telling people at church that I'd trapped her son. Through her posting on Facebook about how some women from other countries would do anything to get to America. Through countless family dinners where I sat at the table knowing everyone thought I was a gold digger. I kept quiet because Marcus asked me to, because he said it wasn't worth the drama, because he said the truth would come out eventually. But at that family reunion in Prospect Park, 3 years after our wedding, I decided I was done keeping quiet. The reunion was Patricia's idea. She'd rented out a pavilion in the park. Invited every cousin and aunt and uncle and distant relative she could find. There must have been 60 people there. Tables covered with food, kids running around, music playing from a speaker someone had brought. Marcus and I arrived late because he'd been on call at the hospital. The moment we walked up, I felt the shift in energy. Conversations paused. Eyes tracked us. Patricia saw us and her face hardened. We went to say hello to her first, because that's what you do. Marcus hugged his mother. She hugged him back tightly like she was trying to pull him away from me. Then she looked at me, her eyes cold, and gave the smallest nod. Not a greeting. An acknowledgement that I existed and she wished I didn't. We got food and found a table. Some of Marcus's younger cousins came over to talk to him, asking about his work, about life in general. They were polite to me but distant, like I was a stranger crashing their family event, which, in their minds, I was. I ate my potato salad and listened to Marcus talk, and tried to ignore the feeling of dozens of eyes on me. Tried to ignore Patricia sitting at the main table, surrounded by her sisters, all of them looking at me and whispering. Then lunch ended and Patricia stood up. She had a microphone, one of those little portable ones people use for speeches. She tapped it and the feedback screeched. Everyone got quiet. She welcomed everyone to the reunion. She talked about family being the most important thing, about how blood ties couldn't be broken, about how the family had to stick together against outsiders who tried to tear them apart. She wasn't subtle. Everyone knew she was talking about me. Marcus's hand found mine under the table, squeezing tight. I could feel his anger radiating off him. He started to stand up, but I pulled him back down. Not yet, I thought. Let her finish, Patricia went on. She talked about protecting the family legacy, about being careful who you let in, about some people who came into your life with hidden agendas. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. She said, "Some of us know what it's like to be used, to have someone come into your family and pretend to love you when really they just want what you have. Some of us have watched our children be manipulated by people who don't care about them, who only care about what they can get." She looked directly at me when she said it. The whole park went silent. 60 people holding their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Marcus stood up fast, his chair scraping against the concrete. His face was red. He was about to say something, probably something he couldn't take back. But I stood up first. I stood up and I looked at Patricia and I made a decision I'd been putting off for 3 years. I was going to tell the truth. All of it. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady when I spoke. I said, "You're right, Patricia. Someone in this family has been lying about their reasons for being here. Someone has been hiding the truth for years. Someone has been using people to get what they want." Everyone was staring at me now. Patricia's face went from smug to confused, to worried in the span of 3 seconds. I continued, "But that person isn't me." I reached into my purse and pulled out an envelope. I'd been carrying it with me for 6 months, waiting for the right moment. Or maybe just working up the courage. This was the moment. I pulled out the papers inside and held them up. 3 years ago, when Marcus and I got married, Patricia told everyone I was marrying him for a green card, that I needed him to stay in America, that I was using him. I looked around at all the faces watching me. The truth is, I didn't need Marcus for a green card. I already had one. I could see the confusion on people's faces. Patricia's eyes narrowed. I got my green card 2 years before I even met Marcus. Through my own merit. Through the EB-1 visa program for people with extraordinary ability. I got it because of my academic work, my research, my publications. I got it on my own. I held up the papers. This is my green card. Look at the date. I got it 3 years before Marcus and I got married. I walked toward Patricia's table. People moved out of my way like I was carrying something dangerous. Maybe I was. I put the papers down in front of Patricia. I never needed Marcus for immigration status. I never needed him for money. I never needed him for anything except love, which is the one thing you've never been able to understand. Patricia was staring at the papers like they might bite her. Her hands were shaking as she picked them up and looked at the dates. Her face went pale, but I wasn't done. That was just the first truth. Here's the second thing you don't know, I said, and my voice was getting stronger now, fed by 3 years of swallowed anger. My father isn't just an engineer. He owns one of the largest construction companies in Nigeria. My family has money. Real money. More money than this entire family put together. I pulled out my phone and brought up pictures. Pictures of my family's home in Lagos, a mansion with gates and a compound. Pictures of my father's company headquarters. Pictures of the cars in our driveway. I passed my phone around and watched people's faces change as they looked. Watched them realize every assumption they'd made was wrong. I didn't come to America because I was poor, I said. I came because I wanted to make something of myself without my family's money. I wanted to earn my own achievements. I wanted to prove I could succeed on my own merit. Patricia was gripping the edge of the table now. She knew something bigger was coming. I could see it in her eyes. But here's the thing you really don't know, Patricia. The thing I've been keeping secret because Marcus asked me to. The thing that's going to make you wish you'd been kinder to me. I took a breath. This was it. The big one. The truth that would change everything. Marcus didn't just marry me because he loves me, I said. He married me because 2 years ago, when his student loan debt was crushing him and he couldn't make his rent and he was about to lose everything, I paid it off. All of it. $300,000 in student loans. Gone. Paid in full. The gasp that went through the crowd was audible. Marcus's face had gone red. He'd told me not to ever mention this. He'd been embarrassed about it, ashamed that his wife had to bail him out financially. But I was done protecting his pride while his mother destroyed my reputation. I paid off his loans, I continued. I paid his rent for 6 months while he got back on his feet. I bought the furniture in your son's apartment. I paid for his board exam fees. I supported him financially because I loved him and I wanted to help him succeed. Patricia looked like she might faint. So you're right, I said, my voice like ice now. Someone in this family has been using someone else. Someone has been taking money and support and help. But it wasn't me taking from Marcus. It was Marcus taking from me. And I gave it freely, happily, because that's what you do when you love someone. The silence was so complete, I could hear birds chirping in the trees above us. Every time you called me a gold digger, I said, walking closer to Patricia, your son was living in an apartment I paid for. Every time you said I trapped him, he was driving a car I helped him buy. Every time you told people I was using him, the truth was the exact opposite. Patricia's mouth was opening and closing, but no sound was coming out. I never said anything, I continued, because Marcus was embarrassed. Because he's a proud man, and he didn't want people to know his wife had more money than he did. Because he asked me to let him save face, and I did. Because I loved him more than I loved being right. I looked around at all the family members who'd judged me, who'd whispered about me, who'd treated me like I was less than human. But I'm done being quiet now. I'm done letting you treat me like garbage while I smile and take it. I'm done protecting the ego of people who never protected me. I turned back to Patricia. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. I didn't trap your son, I said quietly. I saved him. And instead of being grateful, you've spent 3 years trying to destroy me. That's when Patricia did something I didn't expect. She stood up, shaking, and tried to speak. Her voice came out broken. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. You didn't want to know, I said. You wanted me to be the villain. It was easier than admitting your son had married someone successful, someone who didn't need him for anything except love. Patricia covered her face with her hands. I'm sorry. Oh God, I'm so sorry. But I wasn't done. There was still one more truth to tell. The biggest one. There's something else, I said, and my voice was softer now but somehow more devastating. Something even Marcus doesn't know. Marcus looked at me with confusion in his eyes. I pulled out another paper from my purse. This one I'd been carrying for 2 months. This one I hadn't shown anyone. Last year, I said, my father got sick. Very sick. Cancer. He needed treatment that wasn't available in Nigeria. He needed to come to America for surgery and chemotherapy. I held up the paper. This is his visa application. I sponsored it. I arranged everything. I found the best oncologist in New York. I set up all his appointments. Patricia was staring at me now, her face a mix of horror and shame. The day my father was supposed to fly to New York for his first treatment, Patricia called him. The crowd gasped again. Marcus's face went white. She found out somehow that my father was coming, and she called him. She told him that I wasn't really married to Marcus, that it was a green card scam, that I was lying to everyone, that he shouldn't come to America because I'd probably stolen money to pay for his treatment. I felt tears starting to fall, but I didn't stop them. I continued speaking. My father believed his daughter wouldn't lie, but he's a proud man. He didn't want to come to America if there was any family drama. He didn't want to be a burden, so he canceled his trip. Patricia made a sound like a wounded animal. He stayed in Nigeria and got treatment there. Treatment that wasn't as good. Treatment that didn't work. I looked at Patricia and I let her see all the pain in my eyes. My father died 4 months ago. He died because he didn't come to America for the treatment that might have saved him, and he didn't come because your lies made him afraid to. The silence that followed was crushing. Patricia collapsed into her chair. She was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. Marcus came to my side, his arm around me. I could feel him trembling. I'd never told him this part. I'd never told him his mother's call to my father. I'd been too heartbroken to say the words out loud. So yes, I said, my voice breaking now. Someone in this family is responsible for destroying lives. Someone's lies had real consequences. Someone's cruelty killed a good man who just wanted to see his daughter one more time. I looked at Patricia one last time. That someone is you. I turned to leave. Marcus followed me. Behind us, the reunion had dissolved into chaos. People yelling, crying, arguing. Patricia's sobs cutting through it all. We walked through the park in silence, my hand in Marcus's, both of us processing what had just happened. Finally, Marcus spoke. Why didn't you tell me? About the call to your father? Because you were already torn between me and your mother, I said. I didn't want to make it worse. I didn't want you to have to choose. I would have chosen you, he said. I always choose you. I know, but I didn't want it to cost you your mother. We sat down on a bench overlooking the lake. The water was calm, reflecting the sky, peaceful in contrast to the storm we'd just walked out of. I'm sorry, Marcus said. For all of it. For my mother. For asking you to stay quiet. For not protecting you better. It's not your fault, I said. You can't control what she does. But I could have done more. I should have told everyone the truth about you helping me. I should have made them see who you really are. He kept saying, they see now, I said. My phone started buzzing. Text messages coming in rapid fire. Marcus's cousins, his aunts, even his grandmother. All of them apologizing. All of them saying they didn't know. All of them begging for forgiveness. I turned my phone off. What do you want to do? Marcus asked. About my mother. About the family. I thought about it. Thought about Patricia's face when I told her about my father. Thought about the weight of carrying hate versus the freedom of letting it go. I don't know yet, I said honestly. I'm angry. I'm hurt. Part of me wants to never see her again. That's fair, Marcus said. But part of me feels sorry for her, I continued. She spent 3 years hating me because she was afraid of losing you, and now she's lost you anyway, not because of me, but because of her own actions. She might have lost more than me, Marcus said. The family won't forgive her easily for this. He was right. Patricia had built her reputation on being the family matriarch, the moral center, the one who protected everyone. Now they knew she'd lied, she'd manipulated, she'd caused real harm. She'd have to live with that. We sat on that bench for a long time, watching the sun move across the sky, watching families play in the park, watching life go on around us like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I'd spent 3 years being small, being quiet, accepting mistreatment because I thought it was the right thing to do. Because I thought keeping peace was more important than standing up for myself. I was done with that. The truth had cost me something. My silence, my privacy, maybe even my relationship with Marcus's family. But it had also freed me. I'd stopped carrying the weight of other people's lies. I'd stopped protecting people who'd never protected me. Marcus's phone rang. He looked at the screen and his face tightened. "It's my mother," he said. "Answer it," I said. He did. He listened for a moment, then his face softened slightly. When he hung up, he looked at me. "She wants to talk to you. Just you. She says she understands if you say no, but she's asking." I thought about it. Part of me wanted to say no, to let her sit with her guilt, to make her feel even a fraction of the pain she'd caused me. But I thought about my father, about how in his last days he'd told me that carrying anger was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. He'd said forgiveness wasn't for the other person, it was for yourself. "Okay," I said. "I'll talk to her." We went back to the reunion. Most people had left. Just Patricia sitting alone at a table, her face red and swollen from crying. Marcus squeezed my hand and walked away, giving us privacy. I sat down across from Patricia. She couldn't look at me at first. Then slowly, she raised her eyes. "I killed your father," she said. Her voice was wrecked. "I didn't know, but I did." "He made his own choice," I said. "But yes, your lies influenced that choice." "I can't take it back," she said. "I can't fix it. I can't bring him back." "No, you can't," I said. "I don't deserve your forgiveness," she said. "No, you don't." We sat in silence, then she spoke again. "Why did you help Marcus? With the money? Why did you do that if you didn't need anything from him?" "Because I loved him," I said simply. "Because when you love someone, you want to help them. You want to see them succeed. It's not complicated." "I never understood that," she said. "My whole life, relationships were transactions. You give something to get something. I thought everyone operated that way." "Not everyone does," I said. "I was wrong about you," Patricia said. "About everything. And I'm sorry. I know that's not enough. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry." I looked at this woman who'd made my life hell for 3 years, who'd lied about me, who'd poisoned an entire family against me, whose actions had contributed to my father's death. I should have hated her. Part of me did. But another part of me just felt tired. Tired of carrying anger. Tired of the weight of it all. "I don't forgive you yet," I said. "Maybe I will someday. Maybe I won't. But I'm going to try. Not for you. For me. Because I'm tired of carrying this." Patricia nodded. "That's more than I deserve." "Yes," I said. "It is." I stood up to leave. Then I turned back. My father's name was Dr. Emmanuel Okafor. He was 63 years old. He was brilliant and kind, and he loved his family more than anything. He deserved better than to die because of your lies. Remember his name. Remember what your cruelty cost." Then I walked away. Marcus was waiting for me by the park entrance. We walked to the subway together, riding the train back to Manhattan in silence, processing everything that had happened. That night, lying in bed in our apartment, Marcus held me while I cried for my father, for all the time we'd lost, for the fact that Patricia's lies had stolen our last chance to say goodbye properly. But I also cried with relief. Relief that the truth was finally out. Relief that I'd stood up for myself. Relief that I'd stopped carrying secrets that weren't mine to carry. Over the next few weeks, things shifted. Marcus's family reached out one by one, apologizing, asking for chances to make things right. Some I accepted, some I didn't. I decided I got to choose who was in my life now. I'd earned that right. Patricia sent a letter, a long one, handwritten, full of apologies and explanations and regrets. She said she understood if I never wanted to see her again. She said she was getting therapy to understand why she'd behaved the way she had. She said she'd spend the rest of her life trying to be better. I kept the letter. I didn't respond. Not yet. Maybe someday I would. Maybe someday I'd be ready to rebuild something with her. But that day wasn't today. Today, I was focused on healing, on honoring my father's memory, on building a life with Marcus that wasn't weighed down by secrets and lies. I established a scholarship at Columbia in my father's name for Nigerian students studying public health. I used some of my family's money to fund it, making sure his legacy would live on in helping others achieve their dreams the way he'd helped me achieve mine. At the first scholarship ceremony, I gave a speech about my father, about his brilliance, his kindness, his belief in education as a path to change the world, about how he'd sacrificed so much to give me opportunities. Marcus sat in the front row, tears streaming down his face. Next to him, surprisingly, was Patricia. She'd asked if she could come. I'd said yes, though I wasn't sure why. After the ceremony, she came up to me. She didn't try to hug me or make excuses. She just said one thing: "Your father would be proud of you. Thank you for letting me witness this." Then she left. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't reconciliation, but it was something. A crack in the wall. A possibility of something different someday. 6 months after the reunion, Marcus and I were having dinner at home when he brought up something that had been on my mind too. "I want to change my name," he said. I looked at him, confused. "I want to take your last name, become Marcus Okafor. I want to honor your father. And I want everyone to know that I'm proud to be part of your family, not ashamed that you're part of mine." I started crying. He came around the table and held me. "You don't have to do that," I said. "I know. But I want to. Your father gave you the strength to stand up for yourself, to demand respect, to refuse to be small. That's the man I want to honor. That's the legacy I want to be part of." So he did it. Legally changed his name, Marcus Emmanuel Okafor, taking both my father's first and last name. When Patricia found out, she broke down. She said it was what she deserved, to have her family name rejected. But Marcus told her it wasn't rejection. It was choice. He was choosing to align himself with values of respect and dignity and love, rather than suspicion and control. She understood. And for the first time, she started doing the real work of change. Not just apologizing, but examining why she'd been so threatened by me, why she'd needed to tear me down, why love had felt like loss to her. A year after the reunion, Patricia called and asked if she could take me to lunch. Just us. No Marcus. No buffer. I said yes. We met at a quiet restaurant in Brooklyn. She looked different. Older, maybe. Or maybe just more honest. Like she'd stopped hiding behind the armor of self-righteousness. We talked for 3 hours. She told me about her own life, her own pain, about how she'd grown up poor, married young, built her whole identity around being Marcus's mother, about how, when he grew up and didn't need her anymore, she'd panicked. She'd tried to hold on by pushing away anyone who might take her place. It didn't excuse what she'd done, but it explained it. I told her about my father, about growing up loved and supported, about how that had given me the strength to stand alone when I needed to, about how his death had broken something in me but also crystallized what mattered. By the end of lunch, we weren't friends. We weren't even really family, but we were two women who'd hurt each other and were trying to figure out how to exist in the same world without destroying each other. It was a start. 3 years after the reunion, I stood in Prospect Park again. This time for a different gathering. The first annual Dr. Emmanuel Okafor Memorial Walk for Public Health, raising money for healthcare initiatives in Nigeria and supporting Nigerian students studying medicine in America. 200 people showed up. My family from Nigeria, Marcus's family, friends, colleagues, students who'd received scholarships in my father's name. Patricia was there too. She'd been volunteering with the foundation, quietly working in the background, trying to honor the man whose life she'd helped cut short. We'd never be close. The wound was too deep. But we'd found a way to coexist. She respected me now. Feared me a little, maybe, but respected me. As I stood watching people walk for my father's memory, Marcus came up beside me. Marcus Okafor now. My partner. My husband. My choice. Your father would be proud, he said. I hope so, I said. I know so. You took your pain and turned it into something that helps people. That's his legacy living through you. I leaned into him, watching the sun set over the park, watching people celebrate a man they'd never met, but whose impact rippled through their lives anyway. Patricia walked past us, carrying a banner with my father's face on it. She caught my eye and nodded. I nodded back. Not forgiveness, not yet. Maybe not ever fully. But acknowledgement of pain, of change, of the long road towards something like peace. The truth I'd revealed at that reunion 3 years ago had destroyed one family dynamic and built another. It had cost me my silence but given me my voice. It had exposed lies but revealed strength. I'd stood up in front of 60 people who'd judged me, and I'd forced them to see the truth. Not the truth they wanted. Not the truth that fit their simple narrative. But the real, complicated, difficult truth. That I was never the villain in their story. I was the hero in mine. And I'd stopped apologizing for that. My name is Amara Okafor. My father was Dr. Emmanuel Okafor. I came to America with nothing to prove to anyone except myself. I fell in love with a man who needed me more than I needed him. I stood up to a woman who tried to destroy me. I refused to be small. This is my truth. All of it. The painful parts and the proud parts and everything in between. And I'm done hiding any of it. Because the truth, no matter how messy, is always better than the prettiest lie. Always.